Hey, my guy. Yeah? Need something? Yes, I do. Can you help get this LD shop PNG off me? And how do you think I'm gonna help you do that? You come over here and help me take it off. Buddy, we're both also PNGs being displayed in DaVinci Resolve. You want that PNG off you? He has to clear it from the editing timeline. Can you stop spouting gibberish and come here and help? Holy shit, he really isn't listening to me. Ayo, big man, get me out of here. I can't stand this guy. Welcome to part 2 of my Attack vs Anomaly analysis and Zenless Zone Zero, and why the Attack archetype is in a worse game state than the Anomaly archetype. Last time we went over how the early game experience does not properly prepare players in how to play their stun agents and attack teams. In today's part, I'll be going over the next big problem, the gear system, and how Anomaly agents have a massive advantage over attack agents when it comes to building them. Previously, I excluded aftershock-focused agents in the discussion, but today, given the specifics of the conversation, I think it's safe to include them this time around. So, let's talk gear. Well, before we can do that, let's briefly talk about ease of use. The concept of how easy something is to use with the intent to serve a purpose or achieve a goal. A great example of ease of use in the context of directly playing a character in ZZZ can be seen with Harumasa. As a character, he is solid all around for what was an S-rank attack agent given to players for free in version 1.4. The reason Harumasa doesn't get talked about a lot in discussions of meta usually falls down to his higher skill floor required to use him effectively in endgame content. His combos, team rotations, you get the gist. Comparatively, a character like Hugo is one of the easiest characters to play of the attack agents, assuming you have well-built stun agents of course, but I'm getting off track. The point is that a lot of players see ease of use as an important deciding factor when choosing if a character is worth pulling or not. Well, if we extend that line of logic to how a character is built, I believe we'll get the same result. Simply put, if a character is easier to build, they will be considered the better character. Theoretically speaking, any character can be really good in any of these gacha games when given enough investment through their respective gear systems. It's just that the heavy RNG nature of said gear systems will end up filtering out a lot of players in favor of either pulling for stronger characters to support, or even replace an existing character, or pull for signature weapons to close the stat gap for a character to achieve an ideal stat spread for endgame content. With all of this in mind, let's compare preferred stat requirements and gear options for attack agents and anomaly agents. Starting off with preferred stats, both attack and anomaly agents want attack-focused stats on their drive discs. Pretty self-explanatory. It's effectively the baseline to which everything a character's kit does damage-wise is calculated by. Moving on from there, attack agents want two additional stats, crit rate and crit damage. Meanwhile, anomaly agents' two stats are anomaly proficiency and anomaly mastery. The problem is that crit rate and crit damage are both stats that players need to roll for, and more importantly, balance on their drive discs, whereas anomaly proficiency is the only other stat besides attack for anomaly agents to focus on, as raising anomaly mastery through drive discs is only possible through disc slot 6, main stat, or the 2-piece set bonus of the Python's Melody disc set. This harsh restriction of where and how anomaly characters can raise their anomaly mastery actually gives them a massive advantage when building disc drives compared to attack agents, as all they need is attack substats and anomaly proficiency substats. And even then, it's generally agreed upon in the community to put a higher priority on proficiency over attack. So if a disc has good AP rolls, you can generally take the hit if a disc rolls few or even no attack substats. Players building attack agents, on the other hand, will constantly find themselves in situations where they're struggling to meet as close to a balanced 1-to-2 ratio of crit rate and crit damage, either because they continue to roll on dead substats, or pieces constantly roll too much into one of the two crit stats, potentially resulting in diminishing returns. Moving on from that, let's go over 2-piece set bonuses for anomaly characters. A massive benefit of grinding discs for anomaly characters is just how much overlap there is between all anomaly characters' preferred disc sets. Python's Melody for more anomaly mastery, or Freedom Blues or Chaos Jazz, both offering anomaly proficiency. There is of course element-specific sets, or even Hormone Punk for some more attack, but generally the aforementioned sets are never not an excellent choice if you've already got some good ones. By comparison, there's a much wider selection of two-piece disc sets to choose from that has a greater variance in value to a unit based on how much the character needs of the two-piece set stat in question. Woodpecker Electro and Branch and Blade Song both need to also take into account the current character's crit rate and crit damage substat rolls to once again determine if it's needed for the character in combination with the substats on each of their two pieces. Again, Anomaly Proficiency doesn't have this problem, because it is effectively left all to itself in regards to what a player is looking for and is not actively fighting for value with another substat. The end result of all of this is an ease of use that makes Anomaly agents in most circumstances objectively easier to build drive discs around, and could potentially be finished with a solid build much sooner than your average attack agent. From my personal experience building characters in ZZZ, I've found every single one of my Anomaly characters I own to be some of the easiest characters to build good gear for in not just all of ZZZ, but all of the Hoyoverse games, and even easier than Wuthering Waves. Girls Frontline 2 is still better. That's just what happens when you have infinite gear rerolling. Before I wrap things up, I want to also briefly go over the craftable A-rank W engine options as well for Anomaly and attack agents. Generally speaking, the performance of both Weeping Gemini and Starlight Engine are both respectively close to one another, though once again, I want to call attention to the ease of use with Weeping Gemini, which only requires somebody on the team to apply an Anomaly attribute for every user of this W engine to get a stack of their Anomaly Proficiency buff, something Anomaly characters are doing at all times. And its restriction of being cleared if an enemy is stunned or killed isn't too much of a drawback when fighting bosses, who have higher stun thresholds, and in most cases, your Anomaly teams aren't running a stun agent anyway. Proccing 3 fresh Anomaly attributes to build all your stacks back up shouldn't take too long to do in most circumstances. Comparatively, Starlight Engine requires the user to dodge counter or use a quick assist with a 12-second buff up time. This puts a greater focus on the player's ability to consistently dodge enemy attacks, or manage buff uptime in combination with a support agent's energy resource for EX special attacks. Characters like Lucy and Sokaku have rather long buff durations that can far exceed the duration of Starlight Engine, potentially causing issues with syncing up buffs for consistent DPS output. As for the other two W engines, Rainforest Gourmet is more specific in its buff activation for Anomaly agents, but does have a secondary stat of 75 Anomaly proficiency over the 25 attack percent stat the other 3 engines have. As for Street Superstar, it requires a full chain attack rotation to get all 3 charges effectively. This creates 2 problems. The first is you cannot perform the double chain attack technique without missing out on the 3rd charge. The second is that not all agents in ZZZ have chain attacks worth sitting through, all for a buff that is restricted to a single ultimate use. There are just way too many conditions Street Superstar requires in a game that is absent of an ultimate-focused agent. What about Yujuan? That's a Rupture agent. The W engine won't even work on her. So between a simpler building route for Anomaly agents over attack agents in terms of drive discs and better craftable W engine options, we have again reached another situation where attack agents are given the short end of the stick as Anomaly agents prove to be in a healthier game state. And with that, I have gone over all of part 2 of what I believe to be the problem with attack stun teams when compared to dual Anomaly teams in Zenless Zone Zero. Stay tuned for the final part in the series where we'll go over the last aspect as to why one of these 2 archetypes may be seen in a negative light.